Well, I'm a cold heartbreaker fit to burn, and I'll rip your heart in two. So is that describing a Blazer fan? Like the relationship with the Blazers there? I like this song. And I'll leave you lying on the bed. It makes me want to watch Terminator 2 really bad. That's the exact same thing I think about when I hear this song. Guns N' Roses, You Could Be Mine. And you know what could be the Blazers at the end of the night? The number 4 spot in the Tankathon rankings for the NBA draft lottery. Big game tonight as the Portland Trailblazers make a stop in Charlotte on game 5 of their 7-game road trip. Loser really is going to be the winner of this one. This is Blazers Game Day. Chris Burkhardt here filling in for Chad Doing. And don't worry, he will be here with you in about an hour and a half's time. He has your Blazers pregame show across the Trailblazers radio network at 3 o'clock. And then, of course, 4 o'clock, Blazers tip it off against the Charlotte Hornets right here in your home of the Blazers, Rip City Radio 620. If you want to join the conversation with me today, you got a couple options. You can head on over to YouTube, type in Rip City Radio. We'll be right there, and you can type in the chat, or you can go grab your telephone. It's a little smartphone that you usually, use when you're in the restroom, but you can dial a telephone number 503-248-0620, and you can get in on the chat there as well. But before we dive in to what happens tonight in Charlotte, you got to talk about what happened just a few nights ago on the road in Orlando. And that was a good game for the Blazers, a good bounce back game. As I said, after this team went out and they got throttled in Miami, they lost 60 points to the Miami Heat, 142-82, and they need to bounce back in a big way when they, drove up the interstate there to the Central Florida, to the house that Disney built, and had to play the Orlando Magic. And the whole goal in that one was to just play better than they did in Miami. That was simple. That was all I wanted to see, the fan in me, right? And I think that's what a lot of people out there wanted to see as well. Just don't go out there and lose by 60 again. And jokingly, you're like, hey, you go out there and you lose by 50. That's an improvement after what you saw in Miami. But you know what? This team came out, and you got to give them some props. And what they did was they washed away everything bad that happened in South Beach, forgot about it, and then went in and had a very good game against the Orlando Magic. A good bounce back. It's the type of game that you wanted them to have, the type of game you wanted to see, and they did. They were down all the way to the final buzzer, had a chance in this one. Of course, they did end up falling just a tidbit short as they fell to the Orlando Magic 104-103. And it's interesting because you look at the game here, and we can take a look here at the box score. It was good production all the way around. Scoot Henderson, he bounced back, I thought. Everyone made fun of the minus 58 he had against Miami and this and that, even though plus minus is a very overrated metric in terms of how you identify how well a player played. But I thought the 13 points, 8 rebounds, 9 assists, I mean, that's a darn near triple-double, was great to see. And yes, he had 5 turnovers, which you want to see that number come down. But the fact that the turnover number wasn't higher than the assist number for the first time in a handful of games is definitely good to see. You want to see the turnovers number come down. I know we all do. I think that will come with time, but it was a good bounce back game for him. Of course, a great game for DeAndre Ayton, 20 points, 12 rebounds, 10 of 18 from the floor. Shoulda, coulda, woulda been 11 of 18 if he just hit that final shot. But the ball that Scoot Henderson passed to him, Scoot ran into the paint, got triple teamed, kind of lost his balance, had to throw the ball out as time was expiring, and it went right down to DeAndre's ankles. And that's a hard thing to do for a 7-footer to bend down, grab that ball, and then get back into a natural shooting position in such a short amount of time. So it was a hard shot for him, and he missed it. But still, good game. 20 points, 12 rebounds, 7 points for Chris Murray, getting the start again. Jabari Walker starting now with Tamani Kamara out for the season. He had 18 points, 9 rebounds, and 5 assists. Brian Rupert also had 11 points, which is nice to see. Off the Blazers bench, Delano Banton, another solid game, man. This guy, I have gone in deep dives on him many a time as to where I see him in the long run, in the hierarchy of the Blazers. And does he make a rotation? Does he do this? Does he do that? What I love about him right now is he's just going out there and he's balling. He's playing his tail off. And I don't know where he sits if this team's fully healthier with the moves they make in the offseason. But to go out there, have 26 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists, 3 steals, 2 blocks. I mean, he was in 5-by-5 territory. Absolutely incredible game. 8 of 17 shooting, 4 of 8 from deep. He was the aggressor when it came to getting to the rim. He got to the free throw line 8 times because of it. I mean, that was more than half of the team's free throw attempts as they only had 15. And that's another thing I'd like to see get up there. It will probably be talked about in my keys to the game later in the show as well. But the fact that the Blazers, I don't know why, outside of the fact that they're not as aggressive as they could be when it comes to just driving in and getting to the basket, but they are just limited in their attempts at the free throw line. And that number has to get up in the long run for them to stand a chance, especially in these close games. You look at this game in particular, Orlando got to the free throw line 27 times. They hit 21 shots. They made more free throws than Portland had attempts, just like Miami did to the game prior. And Portland made it to the free throw line 15 times. They made 12 of those shots. That's 9 more free throws. Orlando was +9 from the free throw line when it came to makes. And that's a huge, huge stat when the team only lost by 1, because those are free points, right? So you got to be better at not fouling. And, 27 is understandable. It's not like it's a terrible game from a defensive perspective where you're just fouling like crazy and you're sending them to the line 40 times or whatnot. But when they get to the line 27 times, you only get there 15. That's a discrepancy. That's for sure. And you got to figure something out in the long run. Taking a look at the Orlando Magic box score in this one, very balanced scoring from their starting 5, which is exactly how it was the game prior when they got the win over Memphis. 15 points from Paulo Banchero, 20 points from Franz Wagner, 17 points from Wendell Carter Jr. Gary Harris chipped in 14. Jalen Suggs had 15. Off the bench, Cole Anthony had 9, Mo Wagner had 8, and Jonathan Isaac had 6. A big old nothing burger for Trailblazers legend Joe Ingles, who played 15 minutes in this one. So it was a good game, though. I mean, you can't take much away from the effort that the Blazers showed. And then they got the result that they needed, too, because the loss helps them in the Tankathon rankings, my friend. And no loss will be more important than the one that they could end up getting tonight against the Charlotte Hornets. And I'm not advocating to go out there and lose. I don't want a team to go out there and just lay an egg on purpose. If this team gets a win, I'm not upset about it. Now, there's some people who are, because, oh, my gosh, it just totally ruined their chances of getting a better draft pick. And, well, not really. I mean, it's a lottery, so percentage-wise, they can still jump up. Statistically, someone outside of the top 3 always does jump up into the top 3 or outside of the top 4, even with the way the lottery works there. So, you can get a better draft pick, but it doesn't kill me if they win, because sometimes going out there and just playing well and winning with all the young guys means a lot in the long run, too. Helps that winning culture, if you will, for when you do get a young draft pick. And I am not completely sold. And again, this is no insider knowledge or anything. This is just gut feelings, right? I am not completely sold on the fact that if this team does get the 2nd or 3rd overall pick, that they're going to use it to draft a player. I think there's a possibility that they use it to trade, because there's good players in the top end of this draft. Obviously, I think Sarr is kind of separating himself and looking more and more like the number 1 overall pick. Now, Cody Williams is another player I think that fits Portland very, very well, but he's not necessarily a 2 or 3 guy. A lot of mocks have him at like 5 or 6. And so if Portland ends up at 5 and he's available there, you probably take him. But then the rest of the top of the draft is a lot of guards, some good ones, but Portland doesn't need another guard, right? If you went out there and you don't trade Ant and you don't trade Brogdon and you have Scoot and you have Shea and then you go draft a guard, I'm going to be real upset. No. But there's going to be teams who want those guards, and that's where the trade fodder comes into play. Whether it's a Malcolm Brogdon in that pick or Ant in that pick or that pick by itself with whoever else you can maybe think of throwing in, I don't know. But I'm just not completely sold that the Blazers are 100% going to use that pick on a young player. I'm just not. because just the way this draft is, it just feels a little more guard heavy at the top. And then there's players that are going to be available I think in the back end there, where they might be drafting with the Warriors pick, what, 13th, 14th. There's going to be a couple centers. I know you look at Mox and Filipkowski out of Duke is a guy who's mocked to go in that range that you can take a flyer on with that late lottery pick. I know everyone's talking about Zach Edey out of Purdue because he's having a good tournament, but yeah, if you use a lottery pick on him, you done messed up. Now, I'm not saying that I don't think he can't be good. I think there's potential there. 7'4", 300 pounds. He's got skill. Obviously, look what he's done at Purdue, but no, I'm not taking a lottery pick on him. I think second round, though, heck yeah, if I'm in the top of the second round where Blazers are right there with the 34th pick. And interestingly enough, well, some mocks have Zach Edey that going in that range. Maybe you take a flyer on him to increase your depth at the big. I'm again not saying that's what they do. I'm just saying there's moves out there outside of that top five. But you look at the top end, I think there's players there that don't necessarily fit what the Blazers are trying to do. If you think I'm wrong, you got some ideas, tell me. Let me know. 503-248-0620. It's your telephone number. Go to youtube.com, type in Rip City Radio. You can tell me there as well. I mean, I look at guys like Reed Shepard out of Kentucky. He's a point guard, shooting guard, more of a hybrid, 6'3", 6'4". Portland doesn't need him, right? Ron Holland, G League Ignite, 6'5", 6'6". Plays a little more small forward, but feel like he's more built in that shooting guard build. I don't see him fitting in. Cody Williams, though, is another one mocked at 5. I think he fits in perfectly well. Rob Dillingham, Kentucky. Some mocks have him at the back end of that first 10, right? So 6, 7, 8. I've seen some put him up in the 2, 3 range. Again, if that's where he ends up being mocked and he's the best player available, yeah, I'm not wasting a second round pick on another guard. So Nikola Topic, he's another hybrid type player. He's taller for a point guard, but he plays a little bit of that shooting guard spot. I just don't need that. I don't need that. Unless it's a guy who's sitting there, 6'7", 6'8", 100% small forward. I'm not wasting a pick on a guard. But there are players that those guys would fit in really well for. So trade fodder is a real thing. And the higher you get, better that pick becomes. So, I mean, interestingly enough, with who's available, maybe Portland lands at 2 and you trade back with someone who landed at 5 or 6. And you get back and you get one of those other guys you're talking about, but you're not wasting that top pick on them. You're getting other assets with it. I find the draft to be incredibly intriguing myself. I can't wait for it, especially with tonight's game, because the loser basically is they're going to be tied for 4th, but basically holds the tiebreaker for losing to the other team. It's really interesting how this is all going to work out, because the Blazers sitting at 5th right now, worst record in the league, realistically still have a shot at getting all the way up to 3 since San Antonio's playing well as of late. But what else is going on in Blazer world? I'll let you know. We'll take a break here on Blazers Game Day. When we come back, we'll hit you with What's the Scoot? Talk about Scoot Henderson, how he's been playing as of late. Maybe talk about some of the other Blazer rookies as well, because some of them are playing real well, even the one that unfortunately is going to be out for the rest of the season. Still got the Coach's Corner, scoreboard, Coors, Cold Hard Truths, and our keys to the game. All of it coming up. Blazers taking on the Charlotte Hornets. That tips off at 4 o'clock right here on your home of the Blazers, Rip City Radio 620. Welcome back into Blazers Game Day. Chris Burkhart here with you, filling in for Chad Doing. I would have got to What's the Scoot a little bit sooner, but Lincoln Park still slaps, and it's easy to just want to listen to it. And that's what I did. All right, it is time now for What's the Scoot, and it's an interesting situation with Scoot. He has not lived up to the hype, right? No hype he has lived up to, but he has been playing well as of late, and I got to give him credit for that. Yes, he's had his off games, but I find it really, really tough to still gauge him. Like, you can watch it, right? The eye test tells you some things that you like. It tells you some things that you can look back at and say, okay, that's not a great situation, not a great performance. But at the same time, like, it's tough to go out there, try to get in a groove when I think defense is key on you a little bit, and you struggle because you're playing in lineups that are nowhere near what the lineup's gonna be if this team's fully healthy, right? And so you got to go out there and you're playing with, Chris Murray in the starting lineup, right? And not to discredit him at all, he's been very good as of late, but what does that do gravity wise to, key defenses on the him rather than Scoot, right? So these are things that matter to me. And Jabari Walker, not an offensive juggernaut. I had good games, but there's no offensive gravity there. Not a ton of shooters. Rupert's been shooting the ball better, but he's not a known shooter, right? The bench is a bunch of young guys too, trying to find their footing. So it just doesn't bode well for Scoot when it comes to having the best games possible. It's the similar situation. It took us time to find the best of DA too for the same thing. Like, he's out here running pick and rolls with Skylar Mays earlier in the season. So things like that matter to me. And so it's still hard to gauge how good or bad he's been. He's had his moments where he's been very good. He's had his moments where he's been very, very bad. But you also look at his stats and understand that stats-wise, he's not terrible. He's put up good numbers. I mean, it's easy to look at him and go, okay, it's not the 20 and 10 that we really want, but it's if he's not there his rookie year, he's going to be a complete bust. Not every player is, right out of the gate phenomenal, right? Some of them take time. I've said this before on this show, talking about Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, how his numbers are on par, if not better, than what he put up his rookie year. And he was, the 11th overall pick, played all 82 games, started like 60 of them, played about the same amount of minutes as Scoot. And, the numbers were about the same. Now, the scoring averages have gone down and bounced back and forth for Scoot, but he's at 13.3 points and 5 assists, okay? And you look at that, and you're like, okay, let's compare it to not Tyrese Halliburton, or not Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, because SGA was the 11th pick. What about someone else? Okay, well, you look at Dame. Now, Dame came in, and he was good off the jump, but he also had, the 4 years of college under his belt, and he wasn't a 19-year-old rookie coming in. So that factors in too. Now, I was just trying to go through the stats. I look at someone like, I know Blazer fans don't like him, but a guy like Russell Westbrook, right? Russell Westbrook was highly touted coming out of UCLA. He gets drafted 4th overall, and then his rookie season, he goes out there, and he averaged 15.3 points, 4.9 rebounds, 5.3 assists. Scoot, well, on the year, he's out here. He's averaging 13.3 points, 3.2 rebounds, 4.9 assists. So just a little bit less than what Russ was averaging. Russ played all 82 games, started 65 of them. All right, he shot 39% from the floor. Scoot's shooting 38, and the three-point percentage is not there where it wants to be. It's better than the 27% that Russ shot. But at the same time, it took Russ a minute. Then he got it going. The next year, he was at 16 points and 8 assists, finished 6th in the most improved player. And then, boom, all-star game, all-star game, all-star game. Getting votes in the MVP ranking. And then by the age 28 there, 2016, boom, he's an MVP. And he's goes in and averages a triple-double. And I know people, he was stat padding. I don't care. I do not care. We all watch the same games. Yes, he averaged triple doubles, and some of those assists were easier than what he also tore the game up, guys. Absolutely tore the game up. So again, sometimes it takes rookies a minute to get going. So I'm not going to judge what's going on by Scoot by any means, especially with how bad this team has been playing overall, how bad this roster is constructed as we speak. Okay. So do I want more from him? Of course I want more from him. We all want more from Scoot. But I just, there's examples out there of guys who just weren't, they weren't changing everything about the lineup every single day from day one. Like I said, SGA, he was another one. He was a starter. He played all 82 games, but things were rough for him out of the gate. So again, not too worried about it. And we could sit here and we can debate, as we said. Fun P says in the chat, Russ was way more impactful. Yeah, see, he was so much more impactful that team was a 23-win team his rookie year. He wasn't impacting victories. He wasn't impacting wins or losses to the way we think they were. The team was bad, and they had Kevin Durant next to him. So, and that just took a second. And what happened with that team, though? They got the continuity going. They got where they needed to be, got the players they wanted. Boom, boom, boom. They were going. It only took them a handful of years. I don't know how impactful. I mean, Russ was good his rookie year. Don't get me wrong. I liked Russ. I liked Russ going in the draft, watching him at UCLA. I still root for Russ. He's misunderstood. So, interesting. And then he also chimes in, Fun P, the he who chimes in. We have Anthony at point guard, who's a star. Scoot is not our future. Simons is. I disagree. I disagree because you don't draft the guy third overall to not be part of your future. You just don't. I think it's interesting with Ant, too, that they continue to play him at point guard, despite the fact he prefers playing shooting guard. And then they play Scoot off the ball so much when he is a point guard through and through. There's interesting notes going on here. I mean, I would not be shocked, quite personally, would not be shocked if the tenure of Anthony Simons is coming closer to an end than we think. Because they want to hitch their wagon to the young guys, as they should. And that's no disrespect to Ant. Ant's been phenomenal when he's healthy, when he's on the court. It's unfortunate they got hurt, and people want to say tanking and they're faking injuries. No, I was at that game. You watched him come up real limp on that pass attempt, and it was not nice. And he hobbled out with that knee injury. I mean, you could see the grimace on his face as soon as he hit the ground. Oh, it was not good. Like it's not a severe injury, but you saw the grimace. And any injury you get that makes you instantly in pain and then hobble is not fun. But again, I don't know if he's the future. I don't think he is. I think they want it to be Scoot. I also think the tough part with Scoot is that people want him to be the best player on the team. I don't. I do not want Scoot to be the best player on the team because we've gone down that road before, and many teams have. You have to have a very, very specific team if a point guard is going to be your number one player. You have to have a very, very specific build. Blazers are nowhere close to that. I think they want Shea to be that guy. We need to see more from him. Unfortunately, injuries took him out too when he was having a great year. Oh, by the way, sorry, Scott. I didn't mean to make you hungry. I saw the grimace on his face. Grimace does not associate looks on the face of Scott. It just makes him want McDonald's. Also, I apologize, Scott, because I'm obviously must be in the same category as you, because if the word grimace makes you want McDonald's, it also shows your age. Because if I went to my 9-year-old who loves her Happy Meals, or 8-year-old, excuse me, she'll be 9. And she loves her Happy Meals, and I said grimace, she wouldn't know what I was talking about. You just showed your age. Grimace, Hamburglar, come on. I don't even know. I don't even know if 8-year-olds even know if Ronald McDonald's a thing. All they know is the Golden Arches, my friends. That's all they know. Hey, but shout out to Scott and Fun P jamming out in the chat here. I can disagree with Fun P, but I do love the conversation. Because here's the thing, P, you're not alone. The love for Ant's real, man. Absolutely real. A lot of people. I love Ant. I've said this about Ant. Like I want him and Malcolm Brogdon. I want him on the floor. I don't care about the whole draft thing as much. Why? Because I like watching good basketball, as do you, right? And what makes Ant so fun is he's really good at basketball. He makes watching basketball fun. I just don't know where the future is. It's going to be a really interesting offseason with wherever they decide to go. I do think, if they wanted to hitch their wagon to Ant instead of Scoot, better move off of Scoot this offseason. Better make it happen and make it happen now. I'm not saying they will. I'm just saying that's what I would do if I decide to go that route. You're getting off of him quick before anything happens to tank any trade value he would have. I don't know. All I know is tonight's a big game. Loser stands to win in this one. I know that sounds so weird, but we're going to have fun, man. Should be a good game, hopefully. And maybe the Blazers will walk away with another 1-point loss, and you'll feel really good because you watched a good basketball game, but you improved your draft stock as well. All right, Chris Burkhardt here filling in for Chad Doing on the Blazers Game Day show. Chad will be coming at you in about an hour's time with the Blazers pregame show across the Trailblazers radio network. And then, of course, Blazers tipping off against the Hornets here at 4 o'clock on your home of the Blazers, Rip City Radio 620. When we come back, we're going to head down to the Coach's Corner here from Coach Chauncey Billups. Shacker out here making predictions for WrestleMania via his intro music. The injuries, it's all a work. He's gonna come out. He's gonna whoop some tail. Place is gonna go nuts. That's CM Punk, by the way. Right? WrestleMania this week, and I know Shacker's hyped. As am I. I'm not gonna hide my WrestleMania enjoyment, my love for wrestling. I'm still a kid at heart. It's still real to me, dang it. That's right. Let's go viral. All right. Hey, if you want to join the conversation, go to youtube.com, type in Rip City Radio, and you can send all your questions and comments there where everyone is asking some questions. Scott asked a question. I said, hey, I answered at the beginning of the show. I didn't mean that to be like, hey, you need to listen. I was like, hey, I already said it, but I'll totally say it again for you. He's like, sorry, I missed. I'm supposed to be working. I love that. I love when people tell me, yeah, I'm supposed to be working, but I listen to you. I like that. That makes me feel good. I'm worth listening to during work. I always have to have background noise on of some sort, whether it be YouTube or a podcast. So thank you for choosing me. But Scott asked real quick before I get to Coach. He did ask about, do I see the team keeping the picks or trading them? The reason I asked is the draft is not good one, according to the experts. I'll tell you this. The experts on draft, I'll tell you, if there were draft experts, Scott, if there were draft experts, then there would be no such thing as a miss, right? Like a draft expert is such a weird thing. Like, yes, you're an expert on the players going into the draft, right? But you are there's no such thing as an expert on who's going to be good in the NBA out of that, because even scouts miss that, right? We've seen flops. I mean, there was an expert out there who took Anthony Bennett, number 1 overall. There's an expert out there who took Darko Milicic over Carmelo Anthony, right? So, yeah. So, they're the expert. I use the term loosely, but by all accounts, this is a NBA week draft. And I don't know about that because we've seen good drafts be bad. We've seen bad drafts be good once they get to the league. What I do know about this draft, Scott, is I think the top end talent as it stands right now, there's a lot of guards in it, right? And outside of Sarr, who I think is really good, but is kind of becoming the number 1 pick, slowly but surely. And I do like Cody Williams about 5. There's guards mixed in there that make it, if Portland gets like the 2nd, 3rd pick, trading that might make a lot more sense. Maybe you trade back to 7 or 8 where you get a couple of guys available there, but you don't have to use that top pick on them, because maybe you can get hey, I'm going to trade back. I'm going to get the 8th overall pick and a future first or something to give you this pick. Or maybe you package it, Malcolm Brogdon in for that first pick or whatever. I do think there's a lot of avenues to trade that pick rather than use it, depending on who's available. I know there's a lot of people who think the draft should always be draft best available, not for fit. I'm not necessarily one of them. Draft for fit, because why? A team doesn't need 10 guards on their 15-man roster because they were the best available players. So I think you want to go for talent and get out of there. I've also, talking to people close to the team and in the front office, there's a lot of thoughts that they want to be movers in the offseason. They want to bring in talent to try to compete as quickly as possible and get this rebuild, out of the mud. So we'll see what happens, Scott. It's a good question. That's what I think. Also, shout out Rachel, who thought I was saying WrestleMania. No, I did say that I like Russell Westbrook, but I do not have WrestleMania. All right, let's head out to the podium, though. It is the Coach's Corner segment. Let's hear what Coach Billups had to say following that tight loss to the Orlando Magic.
Yeah, I thought it was a really good 4th quarter for us. I thought we finally got on the rhythm of just moving the ball. That's an elite defense. Their size really bothered us at the rim. For when we was trying to get layups, we got a double pump. We got to come with these crazy shots. So, it was just, we moved the ball. We kind of didn't let them set their defense up. We got a little too stagnant in the 3rd quarter, but those defenses make you do that sometimes. And I thought just picking that up, our offensive energy picked up, and it gave us some confidence, and some guys stepped up and made some big shots for us, some big plays. And, it always just comes down to little things, People look at it and say, dang, 1-point game. But there's so many small things that you look back and you say, "Dang, I wish I'd have had a do-over there." A lot of things like that.
What did you think of your last possession? Obviously, Scoop had a little trouble that was able to find DA with the right away shot.
Yeah, he did. I mean, it was not a good possession. Scoot went to the basket. I thought maybe there was some contact there. Maybe he got fouled, but it is what it is. You're playing against one of the best defenses in the league. There's going to be some physicality. We gotta know that going into that area. But at the end of the day, we get Da a pretty much wide open 15-foot shot, which is his money. I couldn't have drawn up a play any better than that to get a guy like that a good shot. So we'll live with that.
Almost a triple double for Scoop. What did you think of just not only scoring but assists and rebounding? How he affected the game overall?
Yeah, I thought he had a pretty good game all around. I thought he was aggressive. He took the shots that he was that I want him to take, and he's supposed to take. That just make us better. He didn't make a lot of them, but he made them when they counted. And I thought he just played well. To be honest with you, defensively, he was he was he was a deterrent tonight. He got up and was very scrappy and pressuring those guys, and he made some good plays as far as playmaking. He made a really big play, turn the corner, and hit Jabari for a corner three. It was a big play for us. So yeah, I thought Scoop played a good game.
We've obviously seen Delano at this point score quite a bit. Defensively, he had 2 blocks in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
On back-to-back receptions, close to it, had 3 steals as well. I think that's part of his game. I think Bill is kind of who he can score a little bit, but
Yeah.
defensively, it seems like he's making some progress even since he's got here.
Yeah, and that's what I'm challenging him to do. He's shown the league that he can score the ball, and I'm saying, why stop there? Show him that you can get out there and guard too. I thought the block he had on the baseline was huge. Was huge. So yeah, he did. He came up with some good steals. His active hands and our little soft press that we was playing. I thought Delano played a good, clean overall game today.
Yeah, he did play a good game. He almost got a 5 by 5. He's been phenomenal, and I love him. I love the way he plays. I love the way he fights. I love the way that he has been given an opportunity, and he is running with it. Right? They gave him the ball, and he is running. I don't know where Delano fits on a fully healthy team post off season when they made some potential trades, signed some free agents, done their thing. I do know one thing though: he has played himself into a roster spot. Like he has earned that. And I think maybe if this team's fully healthy, maybe he's ninth or 10th guy off the bench, and maybe he improves upon that in the long run. But I love the way that he has been playing hard and he's been fighting and has earned those minutes, man. And he's been good on defense. He's been good on offense. And, it's easy though to look at the numbers and say he scored a lot in this game or that game. Well, the big game he got 30 something points. He had 27 shots. Well, he's not going to get those a lot when this team's fully healthy and you got your full complement of scores. But I think he's the type of player that can complement the way everyone else plays. I like him. I like him a lot. I also like the guys like Dwap Reith who've showed out and taken advantage of the opportunity that's in front of them, right? It's unfortunate that they got these opportunities because of so many injuries, man. But if those injuries happen or something unfortunate happens to put you in a spot, you got to be ready. And I think these young guys have shown that they're ready. So I like the depth that this is going to add in the long run, man. I truly do. I truly do. That was the Coach's Corner, though, with Chauncey Billups. You want to join the conversation, head to youtube.com, type in Rip City Radio. You can join the comment section there. Everyone's firing off. I appreciate you guys. Fun piece as he likes Coach Billups a lot. And I said, hey, you got to put some respect on that. That is Hall of Fame Chauncey Billups. Hall of Famer Chauncey Billups. That is right. It was reported today by Sham Sharania that Chauncey Billups will be elected to the Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame class of 2024. And good for him, man. Everyone can say what they will about his coaching or his tenure here, or what they thought about the hire when it happened. And I do know there's a lot of people out there that didn't like the hire when it happened, so they haven't given him a fair shake. It's hard to give the guy any sort of a shake with how bad the roster's been. But I do know Billups as a player he was incredible, man. He wasn't like your prototypical, he wasn't Dame, he wasn't dropping 70, but he brought it on both sides of the floor. He was key to the what Detroit did in that championship run. He was three-time Mr. Colorado basketball in high school, one-time Big Ten all league consensus second team All-American, went on to the NBA where he was a five-time All-Star, three-time All-NBA, two-time All-NBA defensive team, and finals MVP with a championship trophy to boot. That's a pretty good career. He goes in with Vince Carter as well. So that's Vince Carter was half man, half amazing. Also one of the coolest nicknames of all time. I loved Vince. Vince was like my, introduction to in my youth to really starting to like basketball and getting trading cards. Him and T-Mac. Oh yeah. Stephon Marbury. What a time in the NBA back in the late 90s, early 2000s. But shout out to Hall of Famer Trailblazers head coach Chauncey Billups. All right, I'm going to take a quick break here on Blazers Game Day. When we come back, I'm going to get you up to date on the NBA scoreboard, which is really just me telling you what all games are going on today because none of them have tipped off. We'll continue to get you ready for Blazers Hornets coming at you live on Riff City Radio at 4 o'clock. Welcome back in to Blazers Game Day. Chris Burkhart here with you, filling in for Chad Doing. He is currently at Studio C at the Moda Center, ready for the Blazers pregame show. He'll be coming live at you at 3 o'clock across the Trailblazers Radio Network. And at 4 o'clock, you'll have Blazers versus Hornets right here on your home of the Blazers, Rip City Radio 620. Now, let's take a look at the NBA scoreboard. Nothing has even tipped off yet. The Blazers actually the first game to tip off today. They have a game, obviously, in Charlotte. But the rest of the way, you have the Lakers taking on the Wizards, Pistons taking on the Hawks, Thunder in Boston, Pacers in Brooklyn. The Grizzlies are on the road in Milwaukee. Toronto taking on the Timberwolves. The Orlando Magic taking on the Pelicans. And then the final game of the night at 7 p.m. on ESPN, the Cavaliers taking on the Phoenix Suns. And that is your scoreboard report. So much stuff to get caught up on, right? Now, the Blazers have a big one tonight. Absolutely a big one tonight. Hey, shout out Rachel. She said she lived in Denver during Chauncey's high school days. Yeah, well, I lived in Oregon during Kevin Love's and Peyton Pritchard's. So what now? Yeah, there you go. But the Blazers taking on the Charlotte Hornets tonight in a big game, no matter which way you want to cut it. A quick look at the current standings in the draft lottery. The Detroit Pistons, they are the worst team in the league at 13-62, so they are number one. At number two is the Washington Wizards, who the Blazers will play next following this game in Charlotte before ending their road trip in Boston. They are 15-61. And then at number three is San Antonio at 18-58. And then, of course, Charlotte and Portland round out your top five. And this is where it gets interesting. Right now, there is a game difference between Charlotte and Portland. Charlotte is 18-57. Portland is 19-56. Now, say Charlotte wins this game. That means Charlotte would be 19-57 and Portland would be 19-57. They would be tied for the fourth spot down the stretch, with whoever loses the most games the rest of the way it finishes above the other team in the NBA draft lottery standings. And the crazy part is they're not out of the third spot either. It felt like it a few weeks ago, but no, they're right there too, because the Hornets currently only just have a half game lead over San Antonio, right? So whoever loses this game, you're going to be one game back of San Antonio and a legit chance to get into that number three spot. I think San Antonio still has a couple winnable games on their schedule. They do have a rough go, though. Let's be realistic. But there's games that they can win. And if you watch how San Antonio's played, anything that they get in the draft right now, whether it's first, second, third, fourth, it doesn't matter because they got Wemby, right? So they got their piece, and they're going to build around him however they see fit. But you look how they go down the stretch, right? They have left on their schedule, they have New Orleans, they have the 76ers, but then they have the Grizzlies, which is a very winnable game, the Thunder, the Nuggets, and then they end the season against the Pistons, which is a very winnable game. So, you know what? There's a chance you get into that third spot, which is just nuts to think about. But it all starts with tonight and what happens tonight. Now, again, I'm not advocating. You don't go out there and toss a game. That's the basketball gods will come at you if you toss a game on purpose. It's just this team right now is not great. It's not good enough to win all these games, right? Now, you can go back and forth. If they play like they played in Orlando, they have a real good chance to win this game. They play like they played in Miami, they're going to get, they're going to get boat raced. They're going to get lapped multiple times. And there's interesting storylines around this team as well, because they're going into Charlotte. Well, there's news today that Charlotte head coach Steve Clifford is going to step down as head coach at the end of the season, and he'll likely be getting a job in the front office with Charlotte. So now Charlotte's going to have to go on a look for their next head coach. That's something that's going to be kind of over their head tonight. So maybe Charlotte's going to go out there and win one for the Gipper, so to speak. And, respect old Coach Clifford. He's a good coach, but hey, go into the front office, do your thing. And if you're Portland too, you got to remember last time they played the Charlotte Hornets just a little over a month ago at Moda Center. It was the second game, I believe, following the All-Star break. They were semi-healthy in this one. Simons, Ayton, Grant, Tamani Kamara, they were all in the starting lineup. Chris Murray also got the start. That was his third start of the year in that one, and they lost. They had a tough night in that one. They lost to the Hornets 93-80. And if you remember correctly, that was the night that the Blazers shot 3 of 32 from beyond the arc. That's 9.4%, just 34% overall from the floor. Charlotte shot 50% on the night, and a night where Portland won the rebound battle 56-41. And that you would think that a team would win a lot of games when you win the rebound battle by that big of a margin, especially with 22 of them being offensive boards. But when you can't shoot the three and you're trying to live by it, you're going to die by it. They also just made it to the line 16 times. That's a story that we've already talked about a few times. You need to get to the free throw line a few more times. But no, they had a fairly healthy team, and they lost. They lost to the Charlotte team that, they rolled out, man. Nick Richards looked great in that game. Brandon Miller looked good. He had 17 points, 4 rebounds. So the history there, Charlotte already has one leg up on the Blazers this season, and they're going to look to get another one and see where they go. I don't know what Charlotte's doing. Like Brandon Miller's good. They need LaMelo to get healthy and stay in the lineup for, an extended period of time. Now they got to find a new head coach. They've gone through stuff with MJ and ownership and how his involvement. So it's unfortunate. Realistically, I've always wanted Charlotte to be better than they are. They're always just not good. I remember growing up with Larry Johnson, right? And people forget too, because it's easy to remember the Miami taste, but Alonzo Mourning was a Charlotte Hornet, right? Obviously, we all remember Muggsy Bogues, right? But they haven't been good in forever. And it's just so weird because they got, decent arena, beautiful city, great color scheme with some cool uniforms. They just can't play good basketball. Of course, uniforms don't make the team. I'm just saying. Every time I see the Hornets in person, I'm like, yeah, I like that teal, that purple. It's a good match. It's a pretty good match. But we'll see what happens tonight. Like I said, it's a really big game, all things considered, how things fit out for the Blazers and where they stand in the tankathon of trying to get back into the race and get a better pick in the draft lottery, a draft that experts, so-called experts, think is weak. But again, we'll see where it goes. All right, Chris Burkhardt here with you on Blazers Game Day. We will roll on, take a quick break. When we come back, we'll get you our Coors Cold Hard Truths right here on your home of the Blazers, Rip City Radio 620.
Toyota and iHeart need your help filling the truck with canned and non-perishable food items to benefit the Oregon Food Bank. Look for the specially marked Toyota Tundra at the Fred Meyer location near you, and then drop off your donation to help out our communities in need. And while you're there, enter for a trip for 2 to the iHeartRadio Music Festival in Las Vegas. Visit the event page at ripcityradio.com for a complete list of dates and locations, and join us at Fred Meyer as we fill the truck for the Oregon Food Bank.
All righty, welcome back in to Blazers Game Day. Chris Burkhart here with you. Chad will take over in about a half hour. We'll have the Blazers pregame show across the Trailblazers radio network. And then at 4 o'clock, you will have Charlotte Hornets taking on your Portland Trailblazers live right here on Rip City Radio 620. Travis Demers and Michael Holton will have the call live from Charlotte. I went to Charlotte. I've been there once on a Blazers road trip. Never forget it, Shacker. We got an Uber to Charlotte, and there was the basketball tournament going on there. It was like March time, right? I can't remember what the conference was, but it was all the HBCUs, man, and they were partying. It was a great time downtown. And then I remember at one point, like I heard like all these engines revving. I look out my hotel window, and it was like an old school like music video. Like there was all these like top end cars, but they all had like LED lights on the bottom, so like the ground was purple and green and orange, and motorcycles. It was insanity.
Were the cars bouncing? Maybe 3 tires on the pavement.
No, because we were in Charlotte, not Los Angeles. We weren't going with the.
Those are the only music videos I know.
We weren't going with the hydraulics, right? Like Snoop Dogg style. Like those. I mean, makes me want to play GTA. You had to like bounce the car in time, like on the hydros. Yeah. But it was a time, man. The downtown, it was bumping. It was sweet, and yeah, the cars were amazing. I was only a little jealous I didn't have a nice little setup like that. But yeah, it was a cool trip. And then we got to Uber back to the airport the next day. It was me and the Godfather Dwight James, and we were sitting there. You guys know, like I said, WrestleMania is coming up, and I like wrestling. So does Shacker. So does the Godfather. He and I have been to a couple shows together, and we were talking about wrestling documentaries. So like, you see that one with Bret Hart and like the Montreal Screwjob? I can't remember the name. And our Uber driver, she is sitting there the whole time, like quiet, like stereotypical, like the Uber driver, like, yeah, I'm doing my job. I don't need to have a conversation with you. Some people don't like that, you know. She's just sitting there quiet, and she hears us talking. She's like, I was like, I can't remember the name of that. And all of a sudden she's like, Wrestling with Shadows. I'm like, that's it. Are you a wrestling fan? She's like, oh yeah, big time. She's like, I've been to WrestleMania like 5 times. And I'm just like, oh my gosh. And so I was like, okay, well, can you take the long way to the airport so you can join this conversation, and 3 of us can just go ham on old wrestling stories? It was memorable. I'll never forget the random Uber driver who just started dropping wrestling knowledge on us while Dwight and I were talking wrestling. It was pretty fun.
Did you see the new Bray Wyatt documentary on Peacock?
I haven't watched it yet, but I've seen clips of it on social. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm not going to watch that thing because these 30-second clips are making me cry. The whole thing's going to make me bawl.
Well, it will. And it's also over 2 hours, so they have a lot of bawling time in that documentary.
A lot of time for your eye sockets to dry out before getting wet again.
Yeah, and then there's the funeral scene. But it's a good recap of Bray Wyatt's career.
Yeah, well, I'll have
only
to watch
one decade. And while these other guys like John Cena, what is he in the 3rd decade?
Right. That's crazy. Some guys are they're not there long, but they have a good impact while they're there. He's one of them. He was great. So yeah, I'll have to go watch it. But I'll never forget it. And it is WrestleMania. WrestleMania in Philly this year too. Oh my gosh, that's going to be an absolute party. But it is time, like we said, to get to your Coors Cold Hard Truce. And I'll just start with truth number 1. I've seen some people on social say, oh my gosh, we've lowered the standards for the Basketball Hall of Fame. No, Chauncey's a Hall of Famer, guys. Chauncey is a Hall of Famer. You got to remember, the Basketball Hall of Fame is not the NBA Hall of Fame. It's the Basketball Hall of Fame. It's over his entire career. And we're, like I mentioned all the stats earlier, you're talking 3-time Mr. Colorado, Big 12 team, consensus All-American, 5-time All-Star, 3-time All-NBA, NBA champion. Dude put up a basketball career and then turned that into a coaching career now too. And again, say what you will about the coaching career. The record isn't great. Some people like him. Some people don't. I don't care. He's in there as a player. And as a player, big shot. He was good. He was really good. Those Detroit teams with him and Rip and my favorite Trailblazer of all time, Rasheed Wallace, like those were good teams. And a lot of those were because of Billups, right? He's probably the best player on that team. I mean, Rip was kind of the go-to scorer. Tayshaun was your 3-and-D guy. You had Ben Wallace, who was an all-league defense, right? And probably the best defender in the league, kind of like Draymond was for the Warriors during their prime run. But like Billups, gosh, he could do it all, both ends of the floor, and was the glue that kept the team together. Yeah, deserving. Again, I don't think they lowered the standards. I just think overall his entire career, start to finish, man, it's a story worth telling. And he goes in with Vince Carter, who Vince Carter definitely deserving, half man, half amazing. Brought in an entire new generation of fan with the dunk highlights and all that stuff. I love Vince Carter. Like the Toronto Raptors were a thing, right? And then Vince Carter changed his game as he got older. He still had bounce. He just didn't have to rely on it as much, and became more of a 3-point shooter, right? Look at his numbers: 8-time All-Star, 2-time All-NBA, 21 all-time in scoring, league record 22 season played, and a gold medalist. Has like the greatest dunk highlight ever, where he literally jumps over the 7-footer. Like, like wow. Oh yeah. Also joining them, according to Woj, is Jerry West has been elected into the Hall of Fame as a contributor to the game, and this is his record 3rd Hall enshrinement. He was previously inducted in 1979 and as a member of the Olympic team. So there you go. That's 3 times inducted as a player, an Olympian, and a contributor to the game. So there you go for old Jerry West. But Trailblazers head coach Chauncey Billups going in, more than deserving. That is a cold, hard fact. I don't care what you say. Another cold, hard fact for me is the fact that the Blazers, man, I don't know if they're going into this draft fully going, yep, we're going to use that pick and draft a nice young player to go with the complement of other nice young players that we have. I know that's a good route that a lot of people want to take, but I do think factually that there is a chance that they trade that pick, maybe couple it with something to bring in something else to try to get going. I know that they have a lot of faith in Shaedon Sharpe. I think he's going to be really good. I like the trajectory he's on. I just wish he would have played, closer to 80 games this year. But if he continues to improve and can get that scoring output, 20 points per game next year, he's going to be real good, guys. Scoot, I think, is going to improve. I think everyone's going to make their jumps. And I think they're going to go into this offseason trying to look at where their positions of need are. Small forward continues to be one of them. And try to get in a legit starter, a guy that they can think can help be the face of the franchise as well. Don't know who that is, but I think that's their approach. Like, I love Toumani Camara, but I don't think he's the starting 3 of the future. He's very well your future 6th man, though, because, my gosh, he's been the Blazers Rookie of the Year. It's unfortunate that he's out for the rest of the year with that fractured rib and lacerated kidney. What an injury. That sounds like no fun at all. But I'm not sold on what they're going to do. What they're going to do for the draft. I think there's still a very, very good chance that come draft night, they end up trading that pick or drafting it and trading it very shortly thereafter, as we've seen happen before. Hey, quick injury update, too. This is another cold, hard fact. The Blazers are going to have no bodies tonight. So this was your injury update as of late yesterday afternoon, and that was Malcolm Brogdon obviously continues to be out with elbow tendonitis. Kamara is out with that rib fracture that I just mentioned. Shaedon Sharpe is ramping up, but he will be out dealing with a lower ab surgery. Of course, he is with the team now and is trying to get into contact. He might make his debut on this trip, but I do hope he plays before the season's done. Matisse Thybulle with right ankle impingement, and Robert Williams is out. Thybulle's tried to get back now twice and kind of re-aggravated that ankle injury, so that's unfortunate. Now, Jeremy Grant and Justin Minaya were both listed as doubtful, and that has since been updated as the Trailblazers PR team just tweeted that Jeremy Grant and Matisse Thybulle are out for tonight's game in Charlotte. So that's your update when it comes to the Blazers and their injury report. So it's probably likely to be the similar lineup that you saw in Orlando, right? Jabari Walker, Chris Murray, Ryan Rupert, Scoot Henderson, DeAndre Ayton, likely getting the go as the Blazers look to have a good game, but a game that they would benefit to lose tonight against the Charlotte Hornets. But again, I'm not rooting for a loss. I'm just rooting for a good basketball game. If they win, they win. We'll deal with it on the back end, my friends. Should be hopefully a good basketball game though, because these two teams, they're a bunch of young scrappers who just want to go out there and just go ham, right? All right. Fun P. I want the backcourt of Ant at point guard and Sharp at shooting guard. Okay. I get what you're laying down. You're not sold on Scoot. That's fair. You're not alone. I know there's not a lot of people who are. You say that Sharp should be untradeable. Here's the thing with that, Fun P. I know it sounds weird, but I think the way this team looks at this roster as is right now, whether they go Ant or Scoot, I still think they lean Scoot because the young guy they just drafted and, they want him to succeed. Regardless of who's playing point guard next to him, I think this team legit wants Sharp to be the best player on the team. They want him to continue to improve, and they want him to be the go-to guy. And the thing is, if a guy of Sharp size and stature and your shooting guard is your best player on your team, you're in a good spot. Again, I've gone over this many a time, but when a point guard is your best player, things are not necessarily as good as they look because you have to have such a very, very specific roster build around them for it to work. You have a little more leeway when it's your two guard. And again, if you're 6'5", 200 pounds, super athletic two guard is your number one player, it's going to open up some things for you. Now, I don't think they drafted Scoot to be their best player. I think they drafted him to be their second or third behind Sharp and whatever else they do. And if they decide that Ant's the future at that position, they don't want him to be the number one player. I think they want it to be Sharp. And I think if Sharp is, then you are on to something. I really hope he is because I still compared him since day one to a rookie Tracy McGrady. And in his second year, he kind of saw a similar jump to what Tracy McGrady saw in year two. And then we remember what happened by the time Tracy McGrady got to Orlando. He was a bona fide stud, absolute stud. And he changed the games. And if Shaedon Sharp impacts the game in any way, shape, or form close to that, then the Blazers got something special. And I think they do. Not to mention, though, regardless of who's the best player, P, if you have a prime Ant in there and prime Shea, then you're going to have some real upset rims at the end of the day. Like, what did we do to you to deserve the treatment? Because it's going to be Dunk City all night long. Oh, man. See, these things get me excited. All right, we're going to take our final break of the show. When we return, I'm going to give you my keys to the game, tell you what I think needs to happen for the Blazers to get a victory in Charlotte. And then waiting for me to be done with this show right now, just stretching out in Studio C, try doing the boss man. He will have your Blazers pregame show across the Trailblazers radio network here at 3 o'clock. 4 o'clock, Blazers versus Hornets right here on your home of the Blazers, Rip City Radio, 620. Still need to talk to our voice guy. We need to get Chris Burkhart's keys to the game in there with the amount of time I'm filling in for Chad. That's right. I'm filling in for Chad Doing. You can follow me on X at Chris J. Burkhart. Join the conversation on YouTube.com. Type in Rip City Radio, or you can go 503-248-0620 to get in on the phone lines. Hey, quick quote here from Casey Holdall that says, Shaden Sharp is getting better, getting on the court with us. He did a few things in our practice the other day. I thought he looked good, so I was really excited about that. Well, we'll just keep trying to ramp him up, challenge him physically to see if we can take it. That was Coach Billup's pregame there. So, yeah, hopefully we have a Shaden Sharp sighting in the near future. Good to see that they're ramping him up and he's getting the contact and one step closer to getting on the court. All right, it is now time for our keys to the game. And it is pretty simple for me. The first one is just, get to the didn't mean to lose my breath there. Get to the free throw line. Charlotte does not score the ball a lot. They don't score a lot of points. They're just like Portland, because Portland doesn't score a lot of points. They're just like Orlando, who doesn't score a lot of points, right? And what happened in the game in Orlando? You lost by a single point. And you also lost the free throw battle by 9 made free throws to the Magic, right? When one team comes out +9 in the free throws, they're going to take advantage of that, and it showed in that game in Orlando. So a game like tonight against another low-scoring team in Charlotte, you got to get to the free throw line, and you got to take advantage of them, right? That's going to come into effect late in this game if all things, stay chalk, and you want to be on the right side, right? The second thing is you got to shoot the 3 ball better than you did last time you played Orlando. That sounds simple, or last time you played Charlotte. Last time you played the Hornets, you shot 3 of 32 from deep, did the Trailblazers. 3 of 32. That's not going to cut it. If you don't get to the free throw line and you don't shoot the 3 ball well, you're going to get beat up. You're going to get beat up fast. And then lastly, take care of the ball. Portland, they're one of the worst teams in the league when it comes to turning the ball over. Charlotte, though, they're one of the worst teams in the league when it comes to actually getting steals, okay? So Charlotte is actually the 4th fewest steals in the NBA at 6.7, whereas Portland, when it comes to turnovers, they're the number 3. Yeah, that's not great at 15.3 per game, just behind Detroit and Utah. So you have a team that has a propensity to turn the ball over versus a team that doesn't get a lot of steals. Which one wins that battle, right? And if you're Portland, you find a way to take care of the ball and not turn the ball over, not give Charlotte easy chances to get at you. That's key to me. So don't turn the ball over. Better threes, better rebounding. That's what you got. All right, let's head out to the phone lines real quick where David in Salem has been waiting. David, you got about 60 seconds to get it off your chest. What you got for me?
Hey, Chris, what I have for you this afternoon is I heard you talking about potential Blazers waiving their opportunities at draft picks. What individual were you thinking of? They have the potential 5th, 13th, 34th, and 40th pick. Which draft pick would they waive?
Well, I mean, it all depends on what's going on, David. But I mean, if they get into this lottery and they're sitting there at 3 and they don't see a player that they like, I don't want to draft the guard just to draft the guard because he's the best available. You're going to get a lot of phone calls for that. And you can see potential where there's still other guys that they like. And so you trade back. Maybe you trade that. You get the 3rd overall pick. So you trade back and you grab the 8th pick and the 15th pick or whatever it is, some scenario like that. Because there's still guys that you like. You just don't like them that high. Or you find a way to bring in a guy who's a starting small forward in this league right now. Not a guy that you have to worry about developing and can he fit. But I think there's potential there for sure.
You clarified it, Chris. Thanks so much for what you do. I really like that Connect guy from Dalton Connect from Tennessee. I mean, he's an amazing small forward. I've watched all his games and everything like that. And he's, I think, about 6'6" or something like that. Mm-hmm. I almost sure he could play shooting guard. He is that good. There's almost nothing stopping him. And he's been playing some top-end talent, with other colleges. And it's interesting that even though Tennessee was lost out and are no longer in the Final Four, I thought, hey, that's a great player that they could pick up potentially. He's currently at
Sorry, David, I had to throw you on hold there because the music's playing. That means we have to go. But you're right. He is projected at about 14, 15, right? And you got to remember, Portland does have that Golden State pick. That's something to look at. I would take a flyer on a guy like that mid first round. Why not? And there's some guys there in the second round that you might want to grab too. All right, that's going to do it for game day, but don't go anywhere. Chad Dewing has your Blazers pregame show across the Trailblazers Radio Network. And at 4 o'clock, it's Blazers versus Hornets right here on your home of the Blazers, Rip City Radio 620. And then when it's all done, you get right back here because I'll have the fifth quarter for you. Have fun and enjoy the game.